Howdy folks, it's me James, and now I'm finally going to talk about the comic that I'm working on now. When this video comes out, I'm going to have it on my website so you can actually look at it. But I'm going to show you basically what it is, what I'm thinking, and where I'm going, and why I'm doing all this, and kind of the process that I'm using. This isn't like a guide or anything. This is just kind of like behind the scenes. This is what I'm doing. It's just showing you, what I'm doing in case you're interested in that. Okay, so this comic, I've been working on it for a while. I've actually been tracking it on an Excel sheet. Let's see how long. Okay, it looks like I've been working on this since December. That's a really long time. This is something I'm doing very lightly in my free time. I don't really have the opportunity to like sit down and just work on this by itself. I'm really just doing this, usually late at night, maybe early on the weekend morning. Those times when you're really tired and you just want to stop. That's when I'm working on this thing. So it's not able to be like a main effort like I'd like it to be, but it's fun and I'm doing it. So we're gonna look at it. Okay, so what is it? I named it Askril because that's the name of this elf that I made a story about. And why did I make this story? I don't know. I actually woke up in the morning and I had a dream of like the first sequence in this comic where he's like gambling and then he gets chased away. And I was like, okay, well, it sounds like I visualized something, so I might as well just, make a little story about it. And then it just spiraled, and I kept thinking like, well, maybe you can do this and that and whatever. And it just went from there. There really wasn't a plan. I did know that I wanted to make a comic, to post on the internet, but I didn't have an idea what it would be. And this is just what I woke up in the morning with when I decided to do it. So that's just what I'm going with. I don't think that's a good idea, but it's what I did. But basically it's a story about an elf who's a rowdy rascal little elf, and he gets in a lot of trouble. Then he gets inspired to make and change, and that's what the story's about. I do kind of have it plotted out from beginning to end and like the main beats, but not in great detail. So there's still a lot of wiggle room when I'm actually making the pages to change things here and there. Again, it's not big. It's just a tiny little comic. You'll see. But the idea with this is to, build up a big stock of pages and then post them weekly. So I actually have, I'm uploading the first 6 right now, but I have 15 complete and I'm working on the next 5 as I'm making this video. And I'm going to make like a 32-page issue and just put it all online for free. The real goal with this is just to have practice under my belt, really. I draw all day, every day, because that's my job. But I don't really do anything as narrative as a comic book. So it's just to get that mileage. But whatever. Okay, let's just look at it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how I'm approaching my comic now. And I'm doing a lot of stuff on paper. So what we have here is a folder. And every random little thing that I have, I stick in here. And most recent stuff's at top. But, actually it's pretty unorganized. You can see here, I'm just doing random notes, just scribbling it down. Yeah, I wrote a script before I knew the names of the characters. I think I was trying everything, just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks as far as process goes. Did a lot of backstory that I didn't really end up using. Like every time I had an idea about how the world worked, I wrote it down. This isn't organized, by the way. Okay, but yeah, once I figured out the first page, or this is the first page, I reworked it since then. But what we have here is me figuring out how big this thing was going to be. I wanted to make it 6 by 6, which is smaller than this ruler, but I have these like little Apple photo albums that are 6 by 6 that we use for family pictures, and I thought it was just a nice size. And also I saw that printers on the internet typically do this size, and it fits a square format that I chose to go with.
But this is my notes on the dimensions. I just printed it off and try to get as accurate as possible to get a sense of like, how big do I really need the words? And what can I get away with? Yeah, this is just all my notes about how big this thing's going to be. As far as like the pixels and the size, I have no idea. I'm guessing here. I could be doing it completely wrong. I'm actually quite worried that I'm doing it at such a small size. Maybe I should make it bigger. I don't really know. But the idea was like this kind of square format fits well with Instagram and social media. I don't like Instagram. I'm not even popular on Instagram. I don't know how to use it. I don't know why I made that limit on myself to make my comic adhere to Instagram standards. That doesn't make any sense. I kind of regret doing that. I wish I would have done like a longer or like a taller standard comic size. But the benefit of this is also it's kind of short, and when it gets done, and if I print it, it'll be kind of cute to be like a nice little square. Okay, let's look. See, look, I just got lots of... I mean, look at this. This is all just thrown away. I just went over and over on the world building. I'd keep like a clipboard and some paper with me, when I'm laying around at night, and just start writing whatever. Here's a note. This is all too negative. A subject that could be very negative, trying to make it more positive is a challenge. Research on elves. I have, you can get like free books on Kindle from like a long time ago that have no copyright anymore, and on like medieval or ancient lore. And I read some of those for the inspiration and taking notes. All right. Oh, so this is what happens when you have kids. You got to watch out. They'll destroy your material here. Trying to figure... I had a completely different story in the beginning with like vampires and stuff. And I don't know, maybe I'll bring that back at some point, but... We'll just see what happened if I actually drew on paper and inked it. I don't know. I think that'd be fun to do one day, but it's not very much of a comfort zone for me. So I'll try that sometime, but not today. And this is how I plan my thumbnails here. This is a good example, actually. I can't really make out what I'm looking at here because it's been so long, but what I see here is I have panel by panel without thinking about the page of how the story plays out. Almost like a storyboard for animation. And then I'd go back and kind of figure out how this page is going to be laid out. Any ideas I had for the cover? Trying to figure out the logo. I ended up just doing that digitally instead of making it final on paper. But I don't know. I don't even know what the story is yet quite when I'm making the cover. Oh, God. All right. So what else we got here? Planning out some panels. This is where I really wasn't thinking about the dialogue. I was thinking about the images. I was basically storyboarding when I came up with these panels. More world building, lots of world building. I have little sketches on sides of paper. I'll rip it out and just stick it in the folder here. Yeah, working through. I'd plan it like this, and then I'd take some of these little notes and just stick them and like write it on the computer on the script to get the final dialogue. I just kind of wrote the gist of what they're talking about here. Concept art for the prison. Some architecture that I'll figure out later. I mean, this is for me. This is not something I'd post on the internet, Nobody. Now, this is me trying to figure out what my plan is, and I'll talk about it because it's right here. So I plan on having 3 issues. That would be 96 pages. I'll talk about my format later, or my files. But I did 6 images all at once in one file, which kind of didn't make any sense. And so I had to do this weird 4-page system. That's just me planning it out. I was like, how is this going to work if I print it? And with the file setup, because I'm doing 4 pages at once in a file because it just feels like I can keep more consistency if it's all one place instead of having each page an individual file. To just keep drawing the character over and over again. Okay. Random thoughts, just rip it out and throw it in here. More planning for that sequence. Planning. I think this is the sequence that I did a lot of recording on my screen that I'll show in this video. I think this is where the planning happened, or the initial. I think I had a couple pages of this, but storyboard first. See, it's not laid out in the panel yet. Yeah, it got really crowded. What do I mean, you can see the final one. I'll show it, but I think I had so the first page is just these frames, and then these next 3 here became the second page. So this was originally planned to be 1 page, and I broke it into 2 because it was getting so smushed, which is why I'm starting to really resent this square format. Okay. And so I just finished planning some pages this week. So I'll go through those, what I did. This is all in there backwards, so let me just... There's a script. Okay, so usually what I do is I storyboard it and then worry about the dialogue later. Or I'll storyboard it like an animation, and then I'll put it in panels, and then I'll do the dialogue later. That's what I've been doing most of the time. This time I did that backwards. I basically wrote all the dialogue. I tried to do the storyboards first, or just thinking about the panels. That's what I did on this page. It just didn't really quite work because it was a dialogue heavy scene. There's not much action going on. It's just 2 people talking. So trying to storyboard it didn't make a whole lot of sense because I was trying to make the dialogue fit the image, but the image doesn't really matter because it's not about the action in this scene. It's a lot of expository dialogue in these few pages. So I had to ignore the way things looked and do things and take a different approach than what I was doing with the earlier parts of the comic. So I wrote it all out. Narrowed it down a lot. As you can see, you got pages of just talky text. And then I wrote it out on a script. As you can see here, I did reduce some of this dialogue down or simplify it as I put it in. I wrote this in Writer Solo. I think I talked about in an earlier video. I like Writer Solo because you can do it anywhere. I did it on my phone because the phone is tiny and I can't get distracted. And I just sat and I wrote this, just banged it out based off the notes that I made here earlier. And then I printed it out, and then I figured out the pages, and I did it actually quite simply. I didn't really have to do different takes and try to figure out, or I didn't do any iterations basically. It was kind of like one shot because I think the dialogue helped me visualize it enough that I didn't really have to try different things. So I might try that again. If it's an action heavy set of pages, maybe this is not a good approach. But I'll try it. Really, this is one story, but I'm doing it in these little patches, which is not an ideal way, but it's how I'm working it. Here's a plan of how I have things going. I'm sorry, this is really not the most clear thing, but I got the first 6 pages, right? This is I drew this after the fact. I got these other pages, 8 through 11, 7 by itself. Okay, so then I planned page 12 through 15, and I just finished pages 16. Oh, I finished planning pages 16 through 20, actually. These are the same page. And then I have the story beats of how it's going to play out for the remainder of the pages. Then I have the story beats for, probably shouldn't show that, but I have it in my head actually. I should write this down better. But I have the story beats for how the rest of the issues are going to come out. But the reason I have it in these 4 squares is because I'm planning it in 4 pages at a time instead of the whole thing. There's no real reason to do that creatively. That's only for practical reasons because I'm so limited on time. I can't sit here and just think about the whole thing at once. I only get like 30 minutes or an hour here or there to do this. So I've limited myself to these tiny little pockets. Like I did this broad overall picture of how it's going to work out, like what you see here in the first issue. And then I break it down into 4 chunks. And my kind of reasoning is like old comic strips kind of did that, where you just worry about 1 page or 2 pages at a time. And that's how I'm kind of thinking about it, as if it were like something that was published as a serial in like a big magazine, even though that's not what it's going to end up like. But it's just for time constraints. I can't sit and think about the whole story. That's a better way to approach it. And I'm probably going to get myself in trouble because I'm doing it 4 pages at a time, but it'll get done.
Okay, let's switch back to the computer, and this is concept art. I don't exactly remember what thumbnails I had, but I had just like logs standing in for the tree people, and here's where I just fleshed them out actually pretty quickly. Making up like weird shapes and characters like this isn't so hard, so I was able to do this pretty quickly. It took a long time to figure him out though. You can see some of that in my folder, but these guys are pretty essential because they're repeating in at least 6 pages. This cast of characters here. So I had to refer to this constantly. This was super helpful. I mean, some things I do concept for and some things I don't. And, I got to say, if you're going to do something over and over again, you definitely need, at least at the bare minimum, something at this detail, I think. Of course, you have the cops. I did this kind of like on the fly, thinking like, oh, what are the cops going to look like? I just made these up real quick. But these 2 characters ended up being quite even more important because you see them later on after the 6 pages. You see them more in detail at different angles and kind of a bigger part of the story than the guys below. And then when it comes to the rabbit, that's as far as I took it. I didn't feel the need to really flesh him out because he's only in, I think, like 2 panels. So it didn't really matter that much what he looked like. Of course, you have scale, which is another thing that I found really helpful in this. I was constantly looking at his height compared to the other characters. That helped a lot. I mean, like literally, like, okay, so the top of her head is the top of his head. Okay, well, his, kind of where his bangs are could be the nose for him, right? Or the eye line for this guy almost. I was constantly having to use that, even when you do it in perspective, of trying to line them up, because when you just freehand sketch, the proportions got completely out of control. So I think it was really important to have a lineup like this for repeat characters. And then I also made this. This is not accurate. I didn't really stick to this, but I still made it, and it was still helpful anyway. It should be updated because these aren't really his proportions. These are his proportions as far as like how many heads tall he is, but the shapes are pretty off. I think for the main character, this is also pretty necessary, especially establishing how many heads tall he is. But I didn't really use. I mean, when you get him in a front view, he doesn't even look like this, and just doesn't really detail his details very well. It's really more about the proportions. The style in which I draw him and like his hair changes throughout the comic. It keeps getting I'd say more advanced. All right, let's look at all right, the first 6 pages. So here we are in Photoshop. All right, so I made this huge 6-page spread that goes down like that because I thought that'd be easy. I did it this orientation not because I wanted you to like scroll with your phone like that or something. It's mostly because when you flip the canvas, it's a big file. Yeah, this is a problem I found with doing 6 pages at once like this and having a ton of layers, mostly for the color, is it takes a lot of work from your computer, and my computer is not bad. So yeah, so when you flip the canvas, when it's this orientation, it's a little easier to work with than if it's wide, or even if it's like 4 by 4 and you flip the canvas, it still can get you in some weird spots. So I think it's easier to flip the canvas when you have it narrow like that. Another thing that affects the file size, if you see up here very tiny, it says it's 16-bit color. All right, so here's what I was thinking. I don't have the sketches anymore, I think. Nope. I don't have the sketches I did for layout anymore. Let's take the color away. Okay, so the first thing I did, I have this folder called samples. I've never done this. You know, the video I had when I was practicing, one of the things I found was difficult was getting the scale correct, especially working digitally. Working digitally it's fake, right? You don't actually have a sense of how big something is, like how big your line is, as you would if you were drawing it on paper. So that messed me up so much of not knowing how big something actually was when I was drawing it. So I took some images off the internet, off social media, of other artists who have posted comics on social media, just to get an idea of, you know, what scale I'm working at here. And so here, this is Mew Tripled. She does a lot of stuff on Instagram. I just took one of her images off Instagram to get a feel for like, what does she put in a square? All right, you basically have, it's like three rows essentially. Okay, and this is how big the characters are. I'm actually going quite a bit bigger. I still have 3 rows like she does, and this is how big her text is. I felt like that was too big, or maybe I didn't need to be as big as that. I don't have the text up. Boop. But it's a helpful reference. And here's her stuff again. Just get a couple, just to get a feel for the scale of what we're working with here. Here's another artist. Yeah, this is a page that Derek Loffman did. I think I've had it, Instagram, because you can see the little arrows. But, you know, I saw this and I was like, oh, I can read that. I can understand what's going on. So this is about, you know, the amount of detail that I should be working with, and this is about the size of the text. You know, you're not copying the style or anything. You're basically, I'm just sticking these in the file just to get a sense of like, detail and how big I should make things. And you can get quite a lot. But I found you usually have like 2. In a square format, you usually have like two rows, 2 or 3, and usually like 2 or 3 columns, but usually less. This seems like a lot of panels for a square. So this looks like the max. Like I shouldn't do anything more detailed than this. All right, so here you go. It's black and white. I actually kind of like it better in black and white, like myself when I'm looking back at it. This was trying a lot of things, referencing a lot of things. You know, I did a video talking about chroma. I was hugely inspired by chroma on, like, as far as like the ink work and stuff. You can see it with a lot of this, like trying to this. He didn't have anything that textured. I was trying to find a way to get the cool parallel lines that he gets in chroma. That's kind of what some of this is. I didn't do as good as he did. I mean, I could do that stuff manually, but like I can draw each line manually, but I didn't. I was trying to find a brush that I can just whoosh, whoop, a brush that I could just sweep across. Like here, this is like one fat brush, just a few strokes. I was trying to be simple. But here's something, I was looking at Chroma and I noticed some of the sound effect words look like he had layer effects. So what I did is I just drew, here I can actually, there you go, make it dark so you can see it. You just draw it like that. And then, you double click on the layer and you have, a stroke. Oop. And that's a nice way to do it, as opposed to just like drawing manually the outline around everything. Just make the words with a stroke around it. Yeah, that's something I borrowed looking at Lorenzo De Felici's work in Chroma. Adding fake little dry brush to stuff. Also, I was looking at just like classic comics, like the highlight on these things. I mean, that's just whatever, I was looking at like Bruce Timm, Jack Kirby stuff. I actually pulled up a lot of like old Jack Kirby pages to see some things, and then all of this I just like made up. It was a learning process. I don't have a way to show you the progression of these drawings because I deleted and worked on top of things, but it didn't look quite like this when I started. I did like another pass over everything just to like clean it up, because as I was moving down the page like this, I was actually getting better at inking, and so I had to go back and change things. Okay, so let's talk about the color. All right, so the color. I was inspired by really old comics, and they're crazy. They have a lot of crazy colors, but also a lot of simple colors. Specifically, I like the Lucky Luke. Like the new ones and the old ones have really awesome colors in terms of like taking a character and just making them one color. Like right here, he's like yellow. Like he's important, right? So he's gonna be yellow, and he's gonna be he's the brightest person in the whole scene. Like the contrast makes him stand out, and then the color makes him stand out. And I like the ability to be able to do that when you use unnatural colors. I was also inspired a lot by Valerian, like the old Valerian comics from whenever those were written, like in the 70s or something. They also have these like really cool color schemes that are super simple, but just really like giving the feel. Like this feels like a shadow, but would that really be the color? I don't know. Just like going with the feeling. Like why is it purple? I'm not really too worried about it. Another thing I like about Lucky Luke is how if a character is mad, they're just red, just straight red. So I definitely borrowed that. I also I did that in the background too. But I'm just trying to give a hint of local colors. I'm not too worried. I think you can understand it as a viewer, even if it's like a weird color. I think if there's enough information to let you know that these are trees, right? Kind of here, I really like, in those old comics, if somebody's in the foreground, just make them blue, like they're in shadow. Uh-oh. Look at this. I need to fix that. Okay. One of my friends brought it up. This is the only panel in the whole comic that has a shadow, like that I colored in. Everything else is just a flat color. I felt like I needed it for some reason. But again, I'm really worried more about the contrast than the local colors. I mean, look, when you do that in black and white, it's not a question that the characters are more important than the background. Kind of same thing up here. this all kind of blends and blurs together, you really go right to his face. At least that's what I try to do. I like I want to play around more with using just like white backgrounds of the characters like this and some future panels. This is all at night, so everything kind of had to be blue. But I think when things are in daytime, I want to play more with the white. Just a lot of exposed white. Because I was looking at an old issue of Akira that I have when they printed it in the US and they put color on it, and I love the minimalist look to it. I do think it helps the black and white image. There's just like an appeal to like leaving a lot of the white on the page, I thought. Yeah, this is where it comes in handy to have that to have this. You know, when you're thinking about the scale, I mean, it is going perspective, but I still had to like use that. And this is another thing about concept art. This guy's in 2 scenes. I just made him up on the spot because he wasn't going to be like a reoccurring character throughout the panel. So that's all I really needed. And he is in another panel, but I just kept referring back to this page. Yeah, that's the only other time that you see that tree. So didn't feel a need to draw him out on paper. I could just go with it. And there's the bunny that I did. You see him here, and you see him one other place. There's the cops. These are some of my favorite. I think this is actually my favorite page. I like the colors a lot, but I also like the simplified drawings. Doing these, maybe want to actually animate run cycles. I didn't, but one day I think that would be fun to have these guys actually running in 2D. I think it'd be fun. But that wouldn't service the comic in any way. It'd just be a fun little project. But yeah, man, doing stuff like this, like having that concept art makes it so much faster to not really have to think about what some of these details are. You can just refer to your sheet. And then the last page of the first 6. I don't really have much of the color iterations that I did, but a lot of this changed constantly throughout. Again, like, you know, you do the first page one way and you work your way down and you're like, this is working, and you go back up and change it. I kind of feel like I didn't really hit my groove until these last 2 pages, which I think did the best. Like when you zoom out, I think these are the most eye-catching and interesting pages. At the same time, though, a lot of red and blue because of police. Trying to get like the feel of like the sirens, even though there's no sirens, but it's just, again, like local color, schmocal color, who cares? I wanted to get like the feeling of what was going on. Wanted to make it feel like police, so it looks kind of like a disco or something. Same, like it's just kind of psychedelic. I really like that kind of being able to do that kind of color scheme. And then of course you got to put local colors, somewhere to give a reference point. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the bleed, the page bleed. As you can see, there's a tiny gap here between the pages. Like this blue line's where the page breaks. There's a bigger gap on the sides. That was kind of a dumb mistake. As I was working on this, I started to learn more about bleed and the size and all that. I still don't really know, but I think I did something better. So I have I made a template. So this is what I'm working with now. As you can see, the bleed around the page is consistent. So I can do things that go off the bleed. Like when you look over here, like you see how this goes all the way to the left and right, like it'll get cut, all this on the side will get cut off if you print it. But what if I wanted to have something come off the page at the top? Well, there's not enough room for it, so it would be awkward. So you'll notice on these pages, if something goes outside the bleed area, it's on the left and the right. So when I make pages now, I can do, the top and bottom and left and right. But the way I think of it is this line right here is like where you would cut the page, and this other is like a little safe area over here. I don't know how important that is with today's technology and printing to have a big bleed area. I don't know. I know that was a big deal in the past. It doesn't hurt to accommodate for it, I guess. But when I save things out for the internet, you're gonna lose whatever is in these, like this little gutter area, right? So when I save this out, you're gonna lose this little edge here. Now, this is another thing I don't really know. I'm not talking about this from a place of expertise. I'm talking about this is what I'm doing, because if anybody knows better, please let me know. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I figured I'd have like 200 pixels bleed, right? And then that gives 2,100 pixels for the workable area, I think, right? 2,200 pixels for the workable area. Ultimately, to save it out for like a 900 pixel there. So when I save out the images, this is a 900 by 900 as the size. And I'm working with something that's slightly double to this. And this is full size. You'll see. This is a 2K monitor, by the way. So if you have an HD monitor, it'll actually be, a lot bigger. It'll be more like this. But that's what I'm thinking going through this. And I'll show an example of how I got it going on now. See how these panels are totally in the safe zone. It'll get cut here. But the next page, you see it goes all the way to the end. So I know if I print it and I cut it at these blue lines, it should be okay. And this yellow will just go straight off the page to the edge. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I'm doing the letters and how I'm laying all this out. Okay, so you see here I have a lot of pages. I'll try not to go down to the bottom. I'll zoom way out. This is what I got so far. I'm putting together as if it's going to be printed. Even though I'm using this to save it out digitally, I would like to print this whole thing when I'm done. I don't know how I'm going to handle that, but I'm preparing it ahead of time, because why not? This could be a pain in the butt to do later. Now I'm using Affinity Publisher to do this. Why am I doing that? Well, I heard from somebody somewhere that on comic books you should do the lettering in a publishing software like InDesign or something. I'm not going to pay more on my Adobe subscription to add more software. I'm just going to buy Affinity Publisher because it can handle what I need. Anyway, somebody said that you should put it in a publication software because it makes it easier for other people to work with it, especially if you do translations. And okay, that's nice. Future-proof, the work that I have if I decide to publish it. But also, it's easier to work with the text. Let's see here. Now, these are just squares, but see this crazy shape I got going on, and the text that's in it. That's easy to do in Publisher than it is in Photoshop. Yeah, see, I can cut around the hand like that. That's pretty cool. It's easy to change the font. And I'm using the Blambot fonts. They have like an indie license. Basically, if you don't make any money, you could use the fonts for free. So I'm using these. If I ever make any money, I'll pay this guy because he's got some cool fonts. I'm using the digital strip because, as the name entails, I think it looks good on screen. I think that the other fonts are maybe better for print, but you have to choose one or the other. So this is what I chose. I just think it reads better at a smaller scale than the others do on a screen. It's easy to get in there and work with the text in Publisher. So there it is. And then when you save it out, it's easy to have everything here all put together nice in one spot. And you can save out, specific pages at specific sizes a lot easier than you could opening up each individual thing in Photoshop or whatever and saving it out. So it makes exporting really easy. Since I started making my website, I've been using like Adobe Bridge. I think that's what it's called. We just like export like batch images at different sizes and stuff, because I had like hundreds of images for my portfolio stuff for my website. Stuff like that makes it easier. So it's nice to have all this in one spot. So people do everything in Clip Studio, Photoshop, or Procreate or whatever. That's probably easier. I don't know, but I like having it all together in this. It makes to me it makes everything easy, and I think it's worth it, even though you're saving the images out. Oops, you're saving the images out into an external software, but it makes it easy. Like you click on the image, you hit this replace button, and you can change it out really quickly. It's no big deal. So updating it's not that hard. Okay, actually earlier in the video I made a tiny correction. Oh, and I didn't save it. Okay, so let's do this live, folks. Let's erase this. Boop. And let's update it. So I make sure, this is how I save the images out. There's a plugin, not a plugin, there's an old legacy feature of Photoshop that it won't work because it won't work with images this size, but where you could slice the images into different parts, and when you exported it, it exported multiple images. I think that's freaking awesome. And it was labeled that you would say like 1, 2, 3. It labeled the pages and everything. That's gone. I don't know why. It's several years old. It's so old that the size that this would export as is too big for it to handle, and it has like the legacy export. That's a real bummer that's gone in Photoshop. So yeah, see the slices. It still has it on the menu, but they don't work well at all. Bummer. But anyway, so I make sure you got snap, boop, and this is just how I do it. It'll snap to the guides, and you click on the crop. So I just crop them manually. Okay, and export it. All right, we're going to export this. Image export. So this is page 3. Save it. All right, so let's go to the page. See, this is how easy it is to change things out. And you just go to replace image. Go to page 3. Boop, there you go. See, now it's good. The whole thing's gone. Oops, and I'm moving things around. So there we go, folks. Easy stuff. Okay, as far as the home on the internet for this, it's going to be my website, but I'm not exactly sure how that works. I have a little montage of me making the web page here and saving the images out, but I figured I'd just have like a gallery, and that would update it weekly, and that would be the easiest to use because you could scroll through really easy on your phone, or when you're reading it on your desktop or whatever device. I know a lot of web comics do page per page, like a web page for each page, where you have to click next or previous or latest or and all that stuff. That's a lot of clickety clacks, right? I don't really know the advantage of doing that. I'd rather just have it all in one spot. The only disadvantage, or I don't even know if it's a disadvantage, I don't even know how to work, or I don't even know what to do about this, but how do I notify people that I actually put a page up? That's a mystery to me. I have no idea. Like, I put on my website, you're basically just going to have to, go to my website and see if I uploaded it. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I think I'll definitely post the pages on social media platforms like Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, and we'll see how it goes. Those are terrible platforms to like link to a website, right? So I don't know how the uploading and notification is going to work at all, but I'm just going to have to figure it out. If somebody knows how to get notified when somebody posts a new page, let me know. I don't really want to use like the websites geared towards webcomics. I don't know why. I'm kind of adverse to that. I'd rather just have it in my own little space. And then after I make the whole issue, I think I'll probably sell a PDF of it at like the higher resolution, which is really a pointless gesture. It's just if you want to, pay a couple bucks in gratitude, really, there's wouldn't be really much of a reason to buy it digitally because it's all going to be free online. But once I finish the whole thing, I would like to try to print it, and hopefully we'll see how that goes. As far as like monetization, I don't know. It's not really something I'm thinking about or caring about. I'm really doing this. It's like free advertisement. The whole comic is just practice and try to draw on people who this appeals to, because those would be the people that I would basically want to be my audience for things that I make in the future. But again, people who care about the comic, how are they gonna know? Like, what if you watch my YouTube video? That's the only way you know about it. How are you gonna know if I get a new page? I don't know how to do that. I am thinking about maybe making a Discord, because that might be the best way to do it, because you can just put up a notification in a channel every time that I post. That could work out pretty well, and maybe I'll do that. Discord also allows you to do like paid memberships like Patreon and stuff like that. I'm not against doing something like that, but I don't really see the point, especially now. Like, if I can't get people to look at this for free, why would I try to get people to look at this for paid? Beyond a paywall, it doesn't make sense to me. But in the future, for a future project, that could be an option, but only for the sake of all the extra stuff that I do. Like, for example, I'm way ahead of what I'm actually posting. Maybe a paywall or a Discord would allow people to see what I'm currently working on, like in the moment. Because as I'm making this video, I recorded so much footage of current pages which doesn't match what you're seeing on the screen, so I decided not to include it. I'll make another video about that later, but it's stuff like that, like the works in progress and things, and where the comic is now. That could be an interesting thing to show to like an exclusive group. But if I did something like that, I actually probably wouldn't charge any money. I'd probably just be like, well, if you show it to my Discord, then you can see everything right now. But don't take my word on that as far as even doing that. But it might happen in the future. I don't know. I'm spitballing ideas. Probably shouldn't say it out loud because I don't want to be held to any of this. But there's no monetization plan basically at all, and I don't plan on doing it until after I'm finished with it. I'll try to sell a digital copy, and people can pay because they feel nice, not because there's really anything to gain from it. And I'll probably try to print it. We'll see how it does. It'd be cool to go through the process of a very simple Kickstarter, just almost like symbolically as like a training thing of like, this isn't really going to do that well, or it doesn't matter that much, but you'll get the experience of going through the motions. So that's a look into what I've been working on and how I've been doing it and the process, how it's different than before, just working in the 4-page chunks. And that's, again, mostly because of time constraints. I can't look at the whole picture that detailed and write it beforehand. I gotta do it on the fly just because of time constraints. I think it'd be awesome to actually sit down for like a couple months and just think about like a huge script, and then keep narrowing it down to something more workable. I think that'd be the ideal way to go, and then do a bunch of concept art instead of making it up on the fly. But that's not a realistic option, but that'd be cool to do that one day. But I have a lot of fun doing it, man. You just have a hard day doing whatever, and then at night when I can come and work with the comic, it is a very refreshing feeling that I found, to just be able to do something on your own, to draw something silly that isn't going to be in a game, and you don't have to get it approved by anybody else. It's fun. I like being a part of a team making a video game, right? As a concept artist, I think it's nice to have something on the side to funnel like your own creativity is almost like an outlet or like a cool down and to explore things that, you know, you've wanted to explore, which is great. Basically making something that you're not being paid to make. That you're not making it for anybody but yourself. I think that's fun. But how often do we actually do that? You know, I don't do that much. A lot of people I know don't do that. There's kind of an attitude of like, well, I work all day as an artist, so why should I do something, you know, later at night or in the morning or in my free time because I do it all day? I've had that attitude for a while, but forcing myself to do something on my own has completely changed that. I kind of feel like if you have better energy and creativity for your day job as a concept artist or whatever, art related, you kind of need something on the side to balance it out, right? Because otherwise you're just going to be mad all the time that you never get an outlet for the things that you want to do. Well, you just give yourself a little bit of that outlet and you'll be fine. And then you won't complain so much when you have so much feedback and all this, whatever. You just all around feel better about yourself. And to recap where this thing's going, I'm going to post it all for free. I'm going to try to maintain a weekly schedule with the post. I already got like 2.5 months done for that schedule. When I'm not so busy, I can get 1 or 2 pages done a week pretty easily. If I didn't have any work at all to do, I can get maybe 1 or 2 pages done a day. But that can't happen right now. But we'll see how it goes. I want to see it through to completion, and the plan is to do 3 issues, 3 32-page issues. That's 96, is it? It's 96 pages, which is kind of a standard graphic, like a small graphic novel size. And then afterwards, or even, it'd be nice to finish the story and then draw it and then work on another story. But, you know, before I finish this one, but we'll see how that goes. And as far as the you know, the videos and making these videos, this is a long video. It's kind of a pain in the butt to make it, so I don't want to do things that are so like intensive, but I did record a lot of footage, so I'm thinking instead of showing everything all at once, kind of how I was planning to do it, I'm thinking I'm going to show things as they come. So I recorded a lot of footage of what I just finished, which wouldn't make any sense to post it now because you won't see it until like 2 months. So maybe after I post 4 pages, because I'm working in these batches of 4, then maybe doing a video talking about those 4 pages, so then you can actually look at them. So it's not so confusing. It's like, well, you're talking about these, but where are they? So maybe that's what I'll do, which is about a month, right? That's about a video vlog about the comic every month. Maybe I'll do that and then sprinkle it in with other kinds of videos on different things. Okay, but there it is. You can look at it now. It's on my website. I'm going to put a link. Click on the description and whatever. But that's also a work in progress, how it's going to be displayed on the internet. We'll see how that goes. The website's, I'm going to make it the definitive place to see it, but I'm thinking about posting it on other social media, like as individual pages, but then you can go back to the website to see the whole thing. But go check it out, and you know, if you read it, thank you. And goodbye. I'll see you guys next time. See ya.